A common topic that arises when I'm discussing any type of media, be it film or animation or games, is the voice talent. Now, I don't really follow voice actors. I don't keep up with their work, and I really don't get a stiffy when I recognize a certain voice actor playing a character in a show or game I just picked up, like some people I know. However, I've been into the Megami Tensei franchise for a little over 5 years now, and over time I've just sort of naturally developed an ear for recognizing the plethora of voice actors that have made many returns to the franchise. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'll be going over each actor's roles in just the Megami Tensei series, I'll gloss over any roles from the Megaten games that I haven't played yet, and if I happen to be familiar with any other work from them, I'll briefly mention it. Due to the nature of some of these roles, there might be some spoilers here and there. Now, just as a disclaimer, this will not be a full comprehensive list of Megaten voice actors, nor will I be doing a full history on their performances throughout the series. Any of you who have been watching me for a while know that these types of videos coming from me are just sampling the topic and leaving it up to you whether you want to explore it any further yourself. Everything in this video is simply the result of a couple hours of Google searching. All of this web activity can put a lot of my personal data at risk, which brings me to this video's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. In today's day and age, we basically live on the internet. Think of how many different things you do online. A simple transaction, all the videos you watch, every app on your phone, every website domain you visited just today. Every time you do any of those things, companies are recording your activity, your identity, and even the device you're using right now. Say hi to them while they're here for me. Even if those companies don't have any nefarious intentions for your data, if there's ever a data breach, someone who does will obtain it. Surfshark is a virtual private network. This encrypts your data to protect your identity and prevents prying eyes from seeing your online shenanigans. You can also conceal your whereabouts by setting a virtual location. They ain't gonna find out what rock I'm living under. It's not just useful for hiding your location though, you can also use this to access online content that's blocked in your country, and lower prices for things that are more expensive where you are. Both the app and browser extension are very user-friendly. My parents are very technologically challenged, like, they can't even attach a document to an email by themselves. But even this is something that they could use. It's as easy as done. Use code T to get 83% off as well as 3 months for free, on as many devices as you want. Link in the description, and if you're not impressed, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, don't sweat it. Yuri Lowenthal is someone I'm sure 99% of you are familiar with. This guy is everywhere from what I've been told. For now though, let's just quickly go over his Megaten roles. The Digital Devil Saga duology. These games are among some of my favorites in the franchise. Yuri Lowenthal plays the main protagonist, Surf. Surf is a silent protagonist, so obviously he's not really gonna have too many lines. Or does he? While Surf does not really speak a word in DDS1, in DDS2 it's discovered that Surf and everyone else in the junkyard are simulations based on actual people. The real Surf actually does get to talk, and actually ends up being a bad guy. You also come across this mysterious black cat throughout the two games. In the first game, it never speaks. In the second game, however, the cat introduces itself as Schrodinger, and is also voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. Schrodinger turns out to be Seraph, the fusion of Surf and Sarah from another universe. So he kind of ends up voicing 3 iterations of the same character. Kind of? He also voices Yuzuru in Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, which I have not played yet, as well as Yuichi in the 3DS version of Soul Hackers. Some notable non-Megaten roles you might know him from are Toby from Catherine, Ben Tennyson in Ben 10, and Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto. Most people are familiar with his Persona series performances. In Persona 3, he voices the protagonist, as well as Pharos, who later becomes Ryoji. He also voices a couple NPCs as well, such as Chidori's doctor, and some guy from Junpei's flashback in The Answer. Once again, he's given a silent protagonist role, in addition to voicing characters who end up being very closely tied to said protagonist. Ryoji is the embodiment of death. Not the concept, but the shadow whose arcana is death. much like the other Arcana shadows you fought up to that point. He was sealed away in the protagonist before the events of the game, and throughout the game, he appears to the protagonist at night in the form of a little boy named Pharos. Something kinda similar would be done with Johnny Yong Bosch in Persona 4, with that game's protagonist as well as a major antagonist, Toru Adachi, with the protagonist representing a fulfilling life with meaningful bonds, and Adachi representing a lonely, cynical life without bonds. Speaking of Persona 4, Yuri voiced Yosuke Hanamura, which is probably one of his more easily recognized roles. Something you might have noticed with all of Yuri's performances is that he kinda uses the same voice for every character. Like, I get that it's the same actor, but I just can't get behind Persona 3 Protag sounding the same as Yosuke.
Persona! Come forth!
Thankfully, this was alleviated once Persona Q came out. There's a much more clear distinction between P3 Hero's voice and Yosuke's voice now. P3 Protag is slightly deeper and sounds more cool-headed than the spazzing, high-pitched Yosuke. This distinction would carry over for all of P3 Protag's appearances from there onward.
Come, Messiah! Come, Orpheus!
While we're on the topic of Persona 3, we might as well briefly mention Terra Platt. She's only done a few Megaten roles, but two of them are quite notable: Mitsuru Kirijo and Elizabeth from Persona 3. Whoa, isn't it crazy, guys? See, cause she plays two potential love interests for the protagonist who's played by Yuri, and they're like, married in real life, whoa. I know if I don't mention this, I'll get 100 comments pointing it out. Okay, I get it guys, it's cute, because their characters hold hands on screen or something. She also plays your mom, and Madame Ginkgo in Soul Hackers. In Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, she plays Polaris. I have no idea what the hell a Polaris is. Again, I haven't played Record Breaker yet. I don't want to know what that is. Amanda Winn Lee. She has quite a few roles that I, actually recognize. Like, literally all of them. Same goes for a lot of the Persona 4 cast, for that matter. Amanda's first Persona role wasn't in 4, however. She actually started in Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. She played Ulala Serizawa, and the returning Eriko Kirishima, or Ellie, in Persona 1. Eternal Punishment's English voice acting was...
You finally get it? You're the one I want to kill, Maya!
Guys, don't go. Don't leave me alone. Please, no. Please, no. No!
Something. She also played Argilla in the DDS games. The PS2 era is where the voice acting in these games really start to get good in my opinion. More importantly, she plays the best girl, I mean Haru in Devil Survivor Overclocked. So yeah, the best girl. Of course, we can't ignore her most recognized role, Yukiko Amagi in Persona 4. This wouldn't be her last Persona performance though. She would also play a much less popular character in Ichiko Oya. She also plays a side character, Mizusami, and a mini-boss, Gabriel. I actually didn't realize she was Gabriel until it was pointed out to me by Big Clingy. Can't mention Yukiko without Chie. Erin Fitzgerald is more or less the same deal. I've actually played all the Megaten games she's in. As I said a second ago, she plays Chie Satonaka in Persona 4. Starting in the animation, that is. In the original Persona 4, Chie was played by Tracy Rooney. Erin would take over the role starting from the anime, through all the spin-offs, and Persona 4 Golden. I think there still might be people to this day who disagree with this change. This was already the status quo by the time I jumped into the series, but I did play the original Persona 4 first. I can personally go either way. Her other main cast role in Megaten is Midori in Devil Survivor Overclocked. I actually found the Chie voice surprisingly fitting for this character, maybe even more so than Chie herself. Midori's a fun, high-energy character. For side characters, she played Wakaba Ishiki in Persona 5, Tomoko and Naomi in Soul Hackers, and Erika and Trisha in Catherine. I actually didn't realize these characters were her because I was so used to a lot of these other Megaten voices sounding similar. Troy Baker, despite having only a few roles on this list, has some of the most recognizable for me personally. Of course, we have to mention Kanji Tatsumi from Persona 4. The man, the myth, the legend with some of the best lines in the game. However, in some of the spin-offs, Kanji would be voiced by Matt Mercer. Troy also plays Kei Nanjo in the PSP versions of Persona 1 and Eikichi Mishina in Persona 2 Innocent Sin. In Catherine, he voices the main character, Vincent Brooks. Out of these characters, Nanjo actually has the deepest voice out of all of them. Liam O'Brien plays a couple characters I'm quite fond of, like, actually personally attached to. Akihiko Sanada from Persona 3 for one. He lives rent-free in my head. I love his no-nonsense attitude and tone. We'll get into the second one in a little bit, but for now, let's just stick with Megaten. He also plays Yukari's father, Ichiro Takeba, in Persona 3 as well. Who could forget Navarre from SMT 4? The nervous breakdown he has is genuinely really well performed, and I could feel the sanity disintegrating from him.
Hold your tongue! I am the victim here, and I have been one since the day the gauntlet chose me to be a samurai. If only I hadn't been chosen. Mine would have been a carefree life. Ah, yes, those were the days. I was father and mother's delight.
Liam has also played Spooky and Sid Davis from Soul Hackers. Other notable roles include Orlando from Catherine and Kane Highwind from Final Fantasy IV. That's the other character I mentioned I'm fond of. Why? Because Kane Highwind is cool. What other reason do you need? He would reprise his role as Kane in the Dissidia games as well, but unfortunately I have yet to play those. Maybe one day though. While we're at it, we might as well talk about Shinji. In Persona 3, Grant George plays Shinjiro Aragaki, Akihiko's childhood friend. Shinji's most iconic line is his victory quote after a battle.
Adios, asshole.
He also plays Officer Kurosawa, the guy you buy weapons and armor from throughout the game, and Jin Shirato, a member of the antagonist group known as Strega. Kurosawa would actually appear in Persona 4 Arena as a detective. Speaking of Persona 4 spin-offs, Grant George also plays Risei's manager, Inoue, in said spin-off games. In the PSP version of Persona 1, he plays the protagonist. Outside of Megaten, I actually recognized this guy's voice when I watched Kill la Kill for the first time. He plays Sanagayama, one of the Elite Four. He actually has my favorite character design in that anime. Next up, we have Michelle Ruff. She voices Yukari in Persona 3. Something that I noticed after hearing both the English and Japanese voices extensively is that Yukari seems to come off more sassy in English. At least that's the vibe I'm getting. I don't know Japanese, but her tone in Japanese didn't really give off that impression as much for me. In Persona 5, she voices Kawakami, the protagonist's homeroom teacher. She sounds pretty similar, but the distinction lies in her so done with everything all the time attitude and her tone. In Soul Hackers, she plays Mayone, a member of the Phantom Society you only interact with once. Then she dies after you beat her in a boss fight. She also voices Karen McBride, or K. Catherine as people call her. For those of you familiar with the Sonic franchise, you may know her as Cream the Rabbit. I'm really out of touch with the Sonic series, to be honest, so I don't even remember what Cream the Rabbit sounds like, not gonna lie. Here's one you were probably waiting for me to get to. Everybody seems to love Laura Bailey. I'm actually quite fond of quite a few characters she's played here. In Shin Megami Tensei 4, she plays the very early mini-boss Alron. That's not what most of you care about though. I just thought I would put that out there. She also voices a recurring character you encounter in a series of side quests, Nozomi. Despite being such a minor character in the grand scheme of things, her voice work is still memorable in my eyes. Ears, I guess? I think the main reason for this is because she's probably the most normal sounding person in this fucked up world. What with your Hoys and your Navarres and your thugs on every corner, then you've got Nozomi, a demon hunter who's just trying to get by and enjoy her photography hobby. Apparently Nozomi was good enough to be brought back in Apocalypse, but wasn't voiced by Laura Bailey in that game. We'll put a pin in that for now though. She also voiced Nemissa in Soul Hackers, Amane in Devil Survivor Overclocked, and the titular character of Catherine, that is with a C this time. Her most prominent role in terms of Megaten is as Rise Kujikawa in Persona 4 and its spin-offs. Except Persona 4 Dancing, but I haven't played that one yet. In light of Persona 3 Portable coming out on modern platforms, I'd probably get a lot of heat for not mentioning that she also voiced the female protagonist. Again, silent protag, so not a character with a lot of spoken lines. But I'm still quite fond of the femc. To anyone who spent their middle school years watching Dragon Ball like me, I gotta bring up her role as Kid Trunks. It's a shame I was never a huge fan of the Boo saga. Finally, we're gonna close off this quick run-through with Karen Strassman. In Persona 3, Karen played Aigis and Natsuki Moriyama, Fuka's classmate. In Persona 4, she voices Nanako and Izanami. A very interesting selection, to say the least. At this point in time, I'm sure people have become accustomed to it. It's only when you first let it sink in do you have to ponder about how this robot, a little girl, and an evil gas attendant have the same voice. I mentioned earlier that Laura Bailey would not reprise her role as Nozomi in Apocalypse. Instead, the character would be voiced by Karen. She also played Izuna in Devil Survivor Overclocked. And outside of Megaten, I know her as Rosa and Barbaricia in Final Fantasy IV. That's about as far as I'll go with this topic. At this point, as I'm writing this, I feel as though the video is gonna get really repetitive if I keep going. I also have not played every Megaten game, so there's a lot that I wouldn't even really be able to get into. I know someone's gonna get upset that I didn't mention the voice of Joker was also Dagda in Apocalypse and the Smash announcer. So if there's a voice actor you like who I didn't mention in this video, too bad, I guess. I just wanted to get a short video out between my bigger projects. I'm sure there are others who deserve the acknowledgement just as much, but when you reach a certain point in a video where you're just not feeling it anymore, it's better to just cut it off there. The past 4 videos were pumped out at a much quicker rate than I'm used to, so I'm trying to take it slow for a little bit. I make these videos by myself, and I have no desire to hire any editors or other people to help me. Making these videos is, like, the only thing I'm good at, so I'd rather not spend any money to have people do parts of the process for me. I'm a one-man show, and I'd rather keep it that way. If you'd like to support me in my solo endeavors, consider checking out my Patreon. I'd like to give a special shout out to my patrons whose names should be on screen now. YouTube doesn't really reward you based on how much work you put into your videos, it rewards you based on watch time and retention. With enough support, I can afford to experiment more and possibly deviate from Megami Tensei, with the guarantee that all my projects will be worth the time and effort. And of course, special thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video.